It is a fact that the government and the media complex is covering up the jihadi connections between the Fort Lauderdale jihadists and the massacre at the airport. The FBI says, oh, no evidence of any connections. Media is saying deranged, crazy gunmen, trying to make it guns, trying to make it military. See, they were all happy to say soldier. So you'd think that it's PTSD and it's the evil military and the war that did it. But 99.999% of people in the military are great, loyal citizens who would give their life for the country. This one was a sleeper cell. How do I know that? Well, you're about to find out on the Savage Nation. Walid Shoebat, line 10, welcome to the Savage Nation. Did we tell him to come back, or he's still there? He's gone? Okay, Walid, welcome to the program. You're on the Savage Nation.
Thank you, Michael. How are you?
Walid, so look, you talk about the finger, the single finger. It's a sign that he believes that Allah is the unique one, blah, blah, blah. It's a Muslim supremacist sign, is that right?
That is correct. A sababa, they call it, which is the index fingers. Muslims use it, especially if you are an ISIS or jihadi. You would always raise the index finger, in a way. It's the same as the Sikh raises the arm. You have the Islamists raising the index finger. But it's besides...
So in America, if you want to say something, to someone that you hate on the road, you use the middle finger you raise. So this is the equivalent of raising the middle finger to the world. It's a different finger, though.
That's a very good point. A Muslim raises the index finger, is telling the Christians that God is not a triune God. That's the purpose for it.
But why is he wearing a Palestinian scarf? You call it a kafiyah? I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly.
Yeah, kafiyah or shamag. It's the same thing. You wrap it around.
Shmata?
Well, shamag or kafiyah. But this is not just the only clue. A lot of Americans, a lot of people like tourists like to put these things around their neck. But the facial features speaks volumes. The facial features, he trims the mustache and keeps the beard going. Even if it's peach fuzz, it still is a very important, significant feature.
Well, wait, hold on. He is Puerto Rican in origins, though, right? He's not Arabic.
No, he's not, but he was in Iraq, and that is enough for me to say that he got the Islamic flu bug from there. How he got converted. Not only that, he has a pseudonym by the name of Ashiq Hamad, which means the lover of Hamad, Allah the Blessed, the Blesser. This is a Muslim name he gave himself. He's in MySpace account.
3 years before he joined the military, so there's a good possibility he was a sleeper, right?
Absolutely. This is the signs of a sleeper cell. In fact, his Facebook is turned off. There's not much you can find about him, which says that he knows how to be a sleeper. He methodically did a killing. Now, to top everything, a kafiyah around the neck, a beard, trimmed mustache, the sababa, the finger, the index finger, the choice of song, his pseudonym name, Ashiq Hamad, all these combined, to top it all, shooting American civilians at an airport. This tells us this man knows what he's doing. He knows enough Arabic. He must know how to choose the name, how to choose the songs. All these things spell from the hadith that this man is definitely a Muslim. And this goes, the whole facial feature is to kind of denounce the Jews and the Magi. This is from ancient Islam. You elongate the beard, or you let the beard go, because the Persians trimmed their beards. And you trim the mustache because the Jews let the mustache and the beard go along, so they trim the mustache. And so you raise the index finger, denouncement of the Trinity, of Christianity. The Judeo-Christian ethics is denounced by this feature.
So Walid, look, you say the FBI says that there's no jihadi content. Why would they jump to such stupidity immediately to cover this up? Is it because they've been put in there by Obama?
Well, I would say that they don't want much trouble. If every single attack there is Muslim jihadi involved, you're going to have attacks on mosques, on Muslim stores, on Sikhs, and this kind of problems. It's a problem for the FBI and for the law enforcement. This is one possibility. Of course, we have the Obama factor. He does not want to basically have any problems with saying Islam is a problem in America.
Well, wait, so when Trump becomes president, he once said he's going to deport Muslims in the country who come from... He corrected it afterwards, and he said no new Muslims. Then he said he would deport those who came in under Obama from troublesome countries. What do you think Trump might do?
Well, it's very difficult for Trump. Him deporting Muslims and all these things is going to cause havoc for many of the liberals. Is going to, bicker and complain. So we don't know what needs to be done. Is really in the arena of monitoring all the different conversations. This guy was involved in conversations with Muslims, and those things are, well designed so people cannot read them. The FBI cannot access them. But it's training the FBI. How can you train an FBI agent to understand Muslim lingo, to understand all the different Islamic edicts? All the FBI agents are usually fighting drugs. So how can they, begin to understand all the nuances of Islam? It's very, very difficult. And we supply it. The social media issue is a huge problem. That's one thing Trump can do. The YouTube, all the Facebook.
Walid, I think people need to know who you are. Excuse me for cutting in. You're a former PLO terrorist. Did you convert from Islam to Christianity?
Yes, I did. I converted from Islam to Christianity. But that became...
All right, so you're a triple apostate. You're three ways to hell for them. You would be a great resource for Trump, wouldn't you? You should be advising the FBI under Trump.
Yes, but then CARE complained. I used to school the FBI in terrorism. I used to school the police departments in terrorism.
Really?
Nothing about terrorism. Yes, I was a main feature.
So who stopped you? That organization, CAIR? Well, they ought to be the ones investigated by Trump, not you.
Correct. You had the CNN called me a fraud and all kinds of false accusations. They didn't even know my history.
Oh,
eventually,
CNN, who the reliable Wolf Blitzer? The reliable Wolf Blitzer said he doesn't know you're not the real background. How about his background? Why don't we look into Wolf's background instead of yours? But Walid, let's not do name calling. This is serious business. The entire intelligence community needs to be revamped, in my opinion. And certainly, they've been denuded of any questions about Islam or radicals amongst us. Isn't that true?
Absolutely true. They basically weed out Christians. Even the counter-jihad movement weeds out Christians because they want to basically collide with other anti-Semitics. In fact, I wished this shooter was not a Muslim. I wish he was a Nazi, because I want people to know that there's a rise of anti-Semitism in the West. Huge rise. Nazism, neo-Nazism, neo-paganism. And these collaborate with some of the counter-jihad movements as well. Why? Because of the Muslim immigration issue. They all agree on one thing, that we have to stop. To revive Germany as neo-Nazi, Austria. There's a lot of problems in Europe. Neo-Nazis...
What, you mean they have to go from being patsies overrun by Muslims to Nazis? They can't go from patsies overrun by Muslims to German nationalists? Why must they go all the way to anti-Semitism?
Think about it. You have a huge Muslim immigration stemming out of Turkey, worked with Germany, Merkel. There's a reason for this. They want to basically elevate the immigration issue, not just to throw Muslims out, but to throw all immigrants out. And this becomes an Aryan focus. They focus on Aryan race, they focus on racialism and white supremacy and all these things, which me and you get accused of sometimes, which is not true whatsoever. But however, this rise of supremacy in Europe is really, really to revamp and remake and reshape Europe. Look at Europa. I mean, it is an incredible problem. All over Europe, there's a rise of Nazism and neo-paganism, and it's all focused on the Jew. And so, therefore, the idea, I believe, in the long run, is not so much focused on Islam. They could unite with Islam. Nazism united with Islam. Hajj Amin al-Husseini was my grandfather.
Yes, absolutely. This is a very hidden story of the collaboration between the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem and the Nazis. All of the brigades in Albania and elsewhere that were Muslim brigades fighting for Hitler. This is a huge story. You probably know a lot more about than I do.
I'm doing a 5-series on my website. People should read it. Sunday specials. Every Sunday I come out with a feature on the issue of the rise of Nazism. It is tremendous. It's huge. It boggles the mind on how the neo-pagans and the Nazis are collaborating together. In fact, the counter-jihad movements in the U.S., a lot of them work with Europeans. I could give names, but it's going to cause a lot of controversy. You know, it's amazing.
Well, no, this is where you're touching a very raw nerve here, because I never thought you would go here today, Walid. We started to talk about the shooter at Fort Lauderdale, his Islamic connections. Now you're into the anti-Semitism issue, which to me is intriguing, of how that is emerging. But what do you mean names that would cause embarrassment?
Well, look at Pamela Geller and Robert Spencer. Those are colleagues of mine. Now we become enemies. Why? Well, they're working with the SION. They developed SION, Stop Islamization of America, Stop Islamization of Europe, Stop Islamization of Denmark, or, you know, all this network has now, as we investigated, you can take a look at it on my website. It's detailed. It shows direct links to...
Yeah, but wait, so why are they questionable to you?
Because, you see, the idea isn't that they're Nazis. The idea is that the only elements in Europe that counter-jihadis can work with are the neo-Nazis, fascists, and all these other groups. That's what you have available in Europe. And therefore, if you want to work on anti-immigration in Europe and expand into Europe, that's the elements that you work with.
All right, so let's pause right there. The left said that Trump was working with the same forces in America. They're 100% wrong, are they not?
Yes, I believe they're wrong. In fact, Trump condemned Pamela Geller, even according to her cartoons against Muhammad. He doesn't like this kind of things. I don't believe Trump is a populist or an ultranationalist at all. But I do believe during the election he needed votes, and so therefore he kind of remained silent about the issue. But when he becomes president, I'm sure he will address it.
Let me ask you a side question. What does the name Hussein mean? We've known that Obama's middle name is Hussein. Who was Hussein, and what does that indicate in terms of what we have lived through these last 8 years?
Well, Hussein is the grandson of the Prophet Muhammad. That's where the Shia loves Hussein and Hassan and Hussein. They were martyred in Karbala, and that began what we call Shi'ism. And so it is embedded in Islam from both Sunni and Shia. Anyone who has the name Hussein is definitely a Muslim. And so this comes from his family. He was named Hussein because his father was a Muslim. He went to a Muslim school, Obama. No question about it, you know. And so, you know, Obama is definitely has allegiance to Muslims. His family.
Well, let me follow this. You're saying the name Hussein is a Shia name? Is that what you're saying? It's in the Shia line?
It's in the Shia line, but both sides name Hussein because the grandson of Muhammad.
Well, why is Obama so oriented towards Iran? Why did he bend over backwards to send them $170 billion at a time like this? In your opinion, was he put there by the Iranian government in some way? The whole connection, I mean, this is a big deal. We heard stories about Valerie Jarrett. What's her background?
Yes, I mean, look, Obama is known to have affiliations with Muslims. Obama is known to have sympathies towards Iran, and he's most likely upset at Saudi Arabia because this really causes a major problem for Saudi Arabia. Today, uranium, you know, Russia, America, and all this, they're approving a uranium deal with Iran. This is going to give a nuclear weapon to Iran, but it's, in essence, it's going to be a problem more for Saudi Arabia because Saudi Arabia is hated by Iran the most. In fact, the next war, I believe, will be between Saudi Arabia and Iran. He's allied...
Hold on. Well, this is big stuff. Okay, so Russia and Iran joined forces in Syria to crush ISIS. That we know. And left out of the whole package was Saudi Arabia because why? Was Saudi Arabia secretly backing ISIS?
Well, Saudi Arabia basically rejuvenated and started ISIS.
Oh, my God. See, look, guys, everyone listening to this show, The Savage Nation, I know you're stunned because the information is so glorious. It's so deep that it's not an easy topic to call about. It's something to listen to. And listen we will when I return right here on The Savage Nation. However, if you want to join the conversation, it is a talk radio show. And the phone number is 855-407-282. If you have a poignant question that will make the conversation better for Mr. Walid Shoebat, call 855-400-7282. All right, first day back. It's very fitting that I'm back in this old studio where I did 16 years of radio deep into a granite mountain somewhere. Let me tell you something. The shooting at Fort Lauderdale was terrible. And it's being covered up by the media and by the government, saying, oh, he was deranged, he was just a maniac, PTSD, soldier. No. Sleeper cell, deep sleeper. Walid Shoebat, former member of the PLO, he knows these things, you don't. He knows more than everyone in the FBI put together. And that's why when Trump calls the intelligence agencies unintelligent, he's onto something. Now, there's some breaking news that's disturbing. Bomb threats today around America against Jewish centers. That's right. Jewish centers across the United States of America were threatened with bombs. Miami Beach, Rockville, Maryland. Many communities were threatened with bombs today. Jacksonville, Miami, Orlando, Tampa, Jewish Community Center, Miami Beach. So the question is, Walid, what is on the Islamic calendar for today before you come back? Walid, are you there? Is there any connection to what's going on in Fort Lauderdale and these bomb threats to Jewish centers today?
Well, a lot of threats come from the Nazis, and so we don't know. I just
right.
From you now.
So this goes back to what you were saying before. It's the neo-Nazi movement in America now, in cahoots with the Islamists. Is that more or less what you're seeing here?
Eventually to become in cahoots with the Islamists.
So they're working on their own. Okay, got it. Walid will be back with us at the top of the hour, 855-407-282. There's nowhere else for you to go. I know you'll be here.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE.
Blue Monday, I hate Blue Monday. Got to work like a slave all day. Here come Tuesday.
Well, it's not quite Tuesday yet, but it is Monday on the Savage Nation. In the first hour, we're talking about the terrorist attack Friday by a Muslim sympathizer. I don't know that he actually converted. And we have with us Walid Shoebat, who is a former PLO terrorist. I keep repeating that because it's the most important and most salient point of this interview. He is not just an Arabic-speaking man who does not know the mindset of the terrorist because he was one. He used to advise the FBI, used to advise local police departments, but he was driven out of Dodge by a very, very suspicious organization known as CAIR. CAIR has now taken over almost all of the training, if you can believe this, of our intelligence agencies and our police departments regarding Islamic affairs. This must change under Donald Trump, and I think it will change radically and quickly, faster than you can say Osama bin Laden. Walid Shoebat, welcome back to the program. You're with the Savage Nation. We've got loads of callers who want to ask you questions. And I want to ask you about this thing with the threats against Jewish centers that came in just now. You don't think this is Islamic, do you?
I don't. Whitefish. You have Richard Spencer. You have this movement, neo-Nazi movement. If you take a look at how fast this is sweeping, it is amazing. You have, even under conservative, neo-fascist, neo-Nazi, ethnic nationalist, identity politics. You have also Evolian traditionalism, Christian identity, which is also anti-Semitic, European New Right, Nordic racial paganism, conservative esoteric Hellenism. I can go on and on. This is not a problem with a skinhead, and if you're in doubt, just have someone plug in 1488 on YouTube. Look at the thousands of videos. I mean, talking about outright killing Jews on the streets. Holocaust fake. Look up Holocaust fake. Look up white genocide. YouTube allows all these things, which is going to cause a division between these ultra-nationalist, alt-right movements and the normal conservative Americans. This is going to happen in Europe. This is what's going to spread. And it's all because of the immigration of Muslims. It caused a division, and this all was orchestrated by Germany and by the Turks. And if you think the Turks aren't rising, think again. Think of Erdogan, think of neo-Ottomanism and what's happening in Turkey. It all comes back to haunt us of pre-World War. everything that resurrected in World War II with Nazism and with World War I with fighting the Ottomans is coming back to haunt us. Those are the things that Trump will have to deal with in his...
Walid, so, you're saying some interesting things about the coming back from World War I, which I've seen all of the inklings of, especially Obama's trying to start a war with Russia, which was astounding to me. It was a repeat of the prelude to World War I. The drums of August were beating quite loudly this last August, as they were in the August 1917. Where does Trump fit in with this? I have a strange feeling that it's almost God's hand that Trump pulled this off, that the people pulled it off with Trump. I think Trump's going to play an enormous role in the resurrection of the Christian world. Do you think so?
Yes, I do believe that he is very pro-Christian. Even though I don't think he's a very much a practicing Christian. But that's not even the issue here. The issue is that Trump has always been pro-Christian. Trump is pro-Russia. He's going to basically bring Russia closer. I mean, yes, we have problems with Russia, but so what? You had Reagan come close with Gorbachev. And so what's the problem? Obama's the one who kept Russia further, and you have idiots like McCain who don't know what they're doing with Syria and with Russia. But I think Trump is going to bring a...
you're raising it. Why does McCain and that idiot from the Southeast, Lindsey Graham, why do they want war with Russia? Is it as simple as that they're in the pocket of the defense contractors?
Well, it's possible, and that's what's also possible is they're old school. There's still a kind of a sentiment of Cold War with Russia from the older... Republicans. And this is...
so this is the old Reagan wing obsessed with Russia. They still think it's the Cold War?
Yeah, but I don't think Reagan was obsessed with Russia as far as making it an enemy. He said bring that wall down. But I don't agree with Reagan bringing the wall down. You bring the wall down and you unite Germany, and now we see Germany's head rising. Today, in Germany, you could see images of Hitler in a building a few weeks ago, and it was legal. And so what's going on in Germany? We have to think about Germany. Germany wants to come back. You have a huge party in Germany. You have the AfD as well. You have Austria. There's a big movement in Europe to basically come back to neo-fascism, neo-Nazi. Le Pen, her father was very Nazistic. And so you have...
Wait, whose father was Le Pen?
Le Pen, yeah. Jean Le Pen.
You're not saying that she has Nazi sentiments, are you?
Her father, she defends her father vehemently. She wants to basically undemonize her father. But nevertheless, he said that the Holocaust is basically just a line in history. In other words, he's a Holocaust denier. And so you have a huge Holocaust denial. If you don't think so, just look up Holocaust fake.
Walid, you're a very interesting man, because people could have easily typecast you on this program one way, but they're hearing a complete other Walid right now. You're more concerned right now about anti-Semitism emerging than you are about the growth of radical Islam in America.
If you think how many Muslims killed Americans in the last 10 years, you have about 300 people. This is 0.002% of the amount of killing that happens in America. And now we're seeing anti-Semitism rise, and the call, just take a look at 1488, Holocaust fake, white genocide, and see on YouTube. You're Jewish, I'm pro-Jewish, you will bawl your eyes out to see what they are trying to do in this country, in Europe, all over. You will see genocide of Jews on the streets of Europe and the West in the coming years. And I'm saying it and putting it on record because I've been monitoring this heavily. France is practically emptied of Jews. So you have neo-Nazis even growing in Israel. In Israel itself. And so...
Wait. How does that work? How could you have neo-Nazi movements in Israel?
Because you allow immigration from Slavic countries, from other countries, and they harbor these sentiments. And so they become neo-Nazis. And so you have neo-Nazis.
You mean the Jewish state of Israel brings in non-Jewish anti-Semites?
Well, some of them are Jews, believe it or not, but they grew under those sentiments. Okay, it's not unusual.
You mean like from Lithuania and places like that where anti-Semitism was endemic?
Yes.
Let me take a quick call. We're speaking. You're on the Savage Nation right now, and we're speaking with Walid Shoebat about the terrorist event that occurred Friday in our country at Fort Lauderdale Airport, swept under the rug by the media and the government, by the intelligence agency, so-called. Walid says no, absolutely not. This is a terrorist event. And we have some callers who are skeptical. KLIF, Antonio, line 2. Go ahead, make your question or point.
Yeah, a long-time listener, Dr. Savage, and Walid, I'm glad you're on the show. I think you bring a lot of interesting points. I wasn't skeptical about this person. Actually, the first thought in my head was when this Puerto Rican heritage person was from the military. Now, my first thought was he's probably a convert, and I was a little worried about that because there's a bit of a movement. It's not a huge movement, but it's worth taking a look at, of Hispanics converting to Islam, which...
Now, that one is be one of the most dangerous things that could ever happen in America, which would be a large-scale conversion of Hispanic Catholics to Islam. Antonio, thanks for that question. Walid, do you have any data on that conversion rate?
There is a state, it just slipped off my head, in Mexico, which they have huge conversion to Islam. So it's happening in Mexico. And in Mexico, you can find, even in the main markets in Mexico City, the sales on the street markets of swastikas, Nazi paraphernalia. So, and that has to do a lot with Mexico abandoning its heritage, the Christian heritage that they have. And they're getting into all kinds of witchcraft and things of that sort. You have a huge problem.
Well, see, they're going back to pre-Christian times when they were fundamentally pagans. I mean, didn't the Aztecs cut the hearts out of people and roll them down pyramids?
Absolutely. There's a huge movement. Sangria, all that stuff. And also they have the Templarios, which came from basically a Protestant in America, the idea of making men real men. And that basically generated violence, huge violence, with the Templarios in Mexico. We have made a documentary about it on our website, which...
What is Templario? What does it mean? What is that?
The Cristeros Templarios is the name of the group. It's an evangelical group that went haywire, and they basically go into neo-pagan times when they behead people, pluck hearts. In Mexico, you have over 200,000 people killed. This is just equivalent. Well,
there was just a riot in a Mexican prison where they ripped the intestines out of other people. They ripped the hearts out. Is that what you're talking about? That kind of stuff?
No, not in prison, but regular folks in farms, taking over farms. We have rescue Christians. We help Christians in Mexico who are suffering. Farms being robbed by the drug cartel, but the drug cartel has a spiritual aspect to it. It's not just the drugs. There's a spiritual aspect. And so you have takeovers of farms and killings of hundreds of thousands of people. People don't talk about this. We have a video that reveals all of this on our website.
God, this is getting crazier by the minute. Do you think Trump can he do anything in this crazy world of ours? In the big picture, Walid, look, you're a scholar. You speak many languages. You seem to have a global picture of terrorism and horror. Is Trump, as a man, going to be able to make any dent in any of this?
Well, Trump will do dent in the economy, but he can't do a dent on the moral issue. The moral issue is that not just Mexico or Europe, it's the whole world. The whole world is turning away from the Judeo-Christian ethics. This is the alarming piece of it. This is what really should concern us the most, more than even the Muslim immigration issue. Because in Europe, it's not just a Muslim immigration issue, it's all immigration. It's Nordic, coming back to their Nordic tribal identity. This is why they call them identitarians. And so you have an entire world, whether it's South America, whether it's North America, alt-right movement and everything else, whether it's the neo-Nazis movements and the neo-fascist movements, even becoming parties in the political sphere in Europe. We have a situation in which we are poised just before World War I and even World War II. So Trump can't handle the moral issue. He's not going to be able to. The only way to handle the moral issue is basically going back to the way we were during Nazi Germany. And Sir Robert Anderson, who was an evangelical who fought the Ottomans and those kind of things, we don't have it anymore. It's gone. So the more we teach our Judeo-Christian ethics, the more we're going to plunge back to neo-paganism, which these movements want to go to pre-Christian era. And this is why you have the call of wrath.
Is that why shows like the Vikings are suddenly going through a popularity surge again?
Bingo. I think you just solved the problem, right there.
We're talking about popular culture as a bellwether of popular sentiment. And the Vikings show is very popular. Medieval shows, cutting people apart, torturing them. Armies going and raping and pillaging, sort of in the pre-Christian methodologies. I think these are all indicators of what you're talking about. We have time for a couple of quick calls when I come back on the Savage Nation with Walid Shoebat. His website is shoebat.com, SHOEBAT.com. I always recommend it. We will then go to general news. We'll go to the Golden Globe Awards. You talk about the meltdown of a culture. Wait until you hear what the Hollywood idiots had to say about America on the Savage Nation. Live and die in San Francisco. Look, it's easy to talk about the Golden Globes and ridicule Meryl Streep. I mean, she was born in that manner, and there's nothing you could say about it that you haven't already thought. She's an old woman. She's past her prime. She used to be beautiful. She was never smart. She's only a marionette, a puppet. She's about on the same mental level as Robert De Niro. She'd be Robert De Niro in a dress. But we'll do it anyway later. But let's talk about something more important, which is Islam terrorist attacks with Walid Shoebat. Walid, welcome back to the program. I want to go to New York City for a caller, Al, on 8. Al, fire away. Just fire the question out. Go ahead.
Good afternoon.
Well, make your question. All right, gone with the wind. Good afternoon and goodbye. That's all. All right, Gabe on KLIF in Dallas. Fire away. Question.
When Obama made the Iran deal, he exposed himself as a blatant anti-Semite, and I didn't understand it. But with Walid, what Walid is saying, it makes more sense. Was Obama putting the pieces in place for the anti-Semitic uprising in Europe to eradicate Israel?
Walid, please answer that. What do you think?
Let's face it, Obama's allegiance is with the neo-Ottomans, the Turks, Erdogan. This is his second speed dial on his phone. And when we think of Turkey, we think, oh, well, they're Sunni. No, they're Sufi Muslims. And we think, oh, well, Sunnis and Shia of Iran must collide. No, they don't. They will unite because Sufi Islam and Shiism are very close together. Plus, they have a huge majority. Almost half of Iranians are Azeri Turks. The government of Iran is run by Azeri Turks. And so, therefore, you have a unification. They ally together. They have gas. They have all kinds of deals going on between Turkey and Iran. So what we see is a unification as a result of what Obama did.
But why does Russia and Iran, why did they unite against ISIS then? I mean, you would think they're a natural enemy.
That's a very good question. Russia wants to be a nemesis to the U.S. under Obama. And so Russia allies with Iran to be a nemesis to the U.S. because this is an allegiance issue of superpowers in the region. The region looks for superpowers. The U.S. works with Islamists. Why? Because they are anti-dictatorships in the Middle East. Why? Because dictatorships in the Middle East are allies of Russia. And so you have this...
All right, let's pause right there. This is an amazing story. It would take a lot more to go into it. We'll come back to this and, of course, the Golden Globe Awards on the Savage Nation.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE. Savage.
Here you go, 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 here you go. Another 5,000 Jews left France for Israel. Bomb threats prompt evacuation of Jewish community centers in 5 states. Fort Lauderdale gunman makes first court appearance. Now, we're talking about the Fort Lauderdale terrorist because the media immediately said he was just a, what they called a maniac, deranged, needed psychiatric care. FBI chimed in and said absolutely no evidence of any jihadist connection. It's all false, a false narrative. And to prove that, or let's say to give you the other point of view, never mind prove it, because you're not... See, the American people are skeptical, and rightly so. I'm a skeptic. I'm giving you another viewpoint. Let's put it to you that way. You make up your own decision. Walid Shoebat, you're a former PLO terrorist. I keep saying it because you don't really have an axe to grind other than against terrorism. Isn't that true?
I have an axe to grind with many things. I have an axe to grind with anti-Semitism. I have an axe to grind with what the conservative movement is coming down to in the West. I have an axe to grind with Palestinianism. I have an axe to grind with many things. That's why I believe we're balanced. They don't have any balance. We think of left, right. But we don't think of the alt-right or the neo-Nazis or this kind of thing, because they also come across as conservative. But what they have in common with liberals is what I call the seven unholy sacraments: evolution, eugenics, homosexuality, false religion, anti-Semitism, which is atheism and the neo-paganism, pseudoscience, eugenics, all these things, abortion, all racism. You have the liberal moving towards racism by focusing on Black Lives Matter, and you have the neo-Nazis and the alt-right, identitarians. All these are really leftist, extreme leftists. Why? Because they believe in the same things. They believe in evolution, eugenics. You know, you're Jewish. You know.
What do you mean what do you mean they believe in evolution? That makes them a Nazi?
Well, no. But eugenics, when you talk about the RK factor, you see that even on right-wing media. Talk about the RK factor. In other words, there's more concentration on being white than just being conservative. In other words, you have this spread in Europe, you have this spread in the alt-right movement, and that's the whiteness of the West. That is not anti-Muslim immigration.
Well, let's be clear. If you have racists in universities attacking white children on a daily basis, saying that there's whiteness, white privilege, whites are no good, whites should kill themselves, what do you expect to happen?
Well, exactly the point I'm trying to make. You have one side who is racist, the liberal, focuses against being anti-white, but the reaction is this, and this is where I talk about the imbalance. This is all
right, so you're saying we're going to the other extreme. After 8 years of Obama pushing one narrative, subtly or overtly, we have another narrative emerging, which is just as deadly, if not more deadly. That's what you're saying. Let's take another quick question, and then we're going to move on. Walid has a website, shoebat.com, that I recommend you go to. I think we should go to the callers, though, which is very important. And we will go to WABC, New York City. Elizabeth, line 8. Make your point, please.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. A couple of years ago, I had a Muslim contractor work on my kitchen floor, and there was a different helper each time. And one of the helpers had just come back from Puerto Rico, and he was very Islamist in his manner and his appearance. And I got into a conversation. I asked him, so how did he manage? He was in Puerto Rico for a couple of months. How did you manage there? It's very Christian and very, everybody eats pork. And he said, oh, it wasn't a problem. There are many halal places to eat at. And I was like flabbergasted because I had gone on vacation. My family, half of my family is from there. And it's being converted. These guys are insidious. They're going into the country and they're converting the young people. They're converting them with...
Well, one of the biggest mosques last year in the spring, I was in the British Virgin Islands. I landed in the American Virgin Islands and we went over to the British. I was shocked to see a gigantic mosque on top of the tallest hill in the Virgin Islands. And I was saying to myself, where's this coming from? Walid, thanks, Elizabeth. Walid, what is this? Is this a soft entry point to the Western Hemisphere? Is that what I think it is?
Let me explain it in the simplest term. You have what is called da'wah, D-A'-W-A, which is the call to Islam, which all Muslims are supposed to do, which is calling everybody who's not Muslim. Look, my cousin Ibrahim Walid Shoebat is the Mufti of Ramallah. He used to be the Mufti. He will be the Mufti of Jerusalem, equivalent to Hajj Amin al-Husseini, who was my grandfather's friend. And they go to South America. They're evangelizing Islam into South America. With who? With Faisal Abdul Rauf, the man behind the Ground Zero Mosque. Working, you just look up the name Shoebat and Faisal Abdul Rauf and Mufti, and people could see the articles with the photos in the heartland of South America. So this is also amongst the Hispanic population. So this is why you find this happening in Puerto Rico, you find it happening in Mexico, you find it Argentina, you find it happening in Brazil, you find it everywhere. And so, Americans really don't understand the nature of a Muslim, and that is to basically evangelize. So he's very evangelistic by nature. And therefore, this is the spreads. You find, Hispanics converting to Islam by the droves.
People tell me that there are cities in America, you go to the airports, it looks like Lebanon. the number of burqas, the number of head coverings, people speaking Arabic. This is all as a result of Hussein Obama, is it not?
Yes, of course. It's a result of Hussein Obama. Hussein Obama was planted there for a reason. He did his job. He's there for a purpose.
When you say planted, who planted Hussein Obama? Who planted him?
Well, it could be the Saudis. I mean, there's got along with the Muslim when he's subservient, and that's in the Ottoman era. But what happened was after World War I, basically the bruise of Islam, basically the Ottoman Empire was crushed. You had a civilization enter, whether it's under the British mandate or the French mandate in Lebanon and so on and so forth. Those Western influences are pretty much gone. They're gone. They're nowhere to be found. In my youth, I mean, you'd sit there and watch television in Egypt, and you watch Philharmonic Orchestra of Farid al-Atrash or Abdul Halim or Kulthum. Those days are gone. There's no longer of this beautiful Italian Western style of arts that basically engulfed the Middle East thanks to the Christian West. With the Muslim Brotherhood rising in the Middle East, and especially in Egypt, all this civilization is completely gone. And so you have what is now is ultra-Islamists, and you have it in Turkey.
Well, all right, so it's a terrible prognosis. It means what? We're all going to be engulfed by radical Islam and killed?
Well, I fear the division in the West. Now, we have three divisions. It's not just liberal left and conservative right. It is this other ultra-right and the other extreme fascist movements. This is going to create in the West three divisions. And so as you see this happening maybe in Germany, maybe Austria, maybe other countries, France is pretty much, you're going to have civil unrest in Europe, and this is going to create an entrance point for the Turks. Let's not forget the Turkish army is second largest in NATO.
Walid, before you go, we could keep you on for the rest of the day. Rob on WBOB in Jacksonville is asking, how can Muslims coming into America be vetted? Is there a good answer to that question?
It's impossible to vet them because they can come on a different ID. They can come on a different birth certificate. They can come under a different name. They change their name. So this way the databases gets confused. It's an absolutely impossibility to basically filter the Muslims coming into the West. This immigration has to end. The problem that we agree between alt-right, whether it is the conservative, is the immigration of Muslims to the West. It's not an immigration period. But the problem is that we're focused on immigration period, the immigration from Mexico. We should, filter out the drug epidemic coming from Mexico, yes. But nevertheless, I have no problem with Mexicans who want to work in America or come to immigrate to the U.S. So what we're doing is we're basically calling out an immigration completely to be removed, and the whole world is plunging into ultranationalism in which we're proud to be this and we're proud to be that. I'm a Christian. The church condemned racism. And so, I don't believe you're a racist as they accuse you of. We're not racist. We're the regular conservative Americans. And we have to go back to the real conservative Americans and not this kind of new strand of identitarian and eugenics and all this stuff and this racial tone that has divided the United States. And let's face it, America is the beacon of the world. So, with the election of Trump, there is some negative things, and that is the European West would tend to look at this as the green light for the neo-fascists to grow. And so this is the kind of thing that Trump has to kind of weed out when he becomes president and speak against very, very strongly, and to basically affect the social media. This is all social media. The social media has taken over.
You're surprising me today, Walid, because you're focusing almost as much on the other side as you are on the Islamist side, which is intriguing to me because I don't see the threat as gravely as you do. I see the rise of ultra-nationalism as a natural response to the destruction of European civilization and the destruction of the Europeans, primarily as the result of the madwoman Angela Merkel, who is crazy. Why has she done that to her own country? Why has Angela Merkel invaded her own nation with 1 million Muslims? What is the sense of that?
There is a desire of the Germanic people. Let's face it. The Germanic people historically has been a problem for Christendom, has been a problem for the Jewish people, has been a problem for everything. There is a rise. This is a desire. We have not really completely destroyed Nazism, even in the Nuremberg trial.
All right. Well, look, we could talk. Again, you are an encyclopedia of a man, which is a great compliment coming from Wikipedia here. And again, your website is Shoebat, as the word shoe, SHOE.com. The phone number here is 855-407-282. I want to thank you for being with us well over an hour. It went by in 5 minutes. You're listening to the one and only Savage Nation.